Morocco is a great place to go cycling. After hiring mountain bikes in Marrakesh, we headed towards the High Atlas. Our route took us from Marrakesh south across the High Atlas to Taradont, and then further south across the Anti-Atlas to Tafraout, before heading back to Agadir and up to Essaouira on the coast, and then back to Marrakesh. The Atlas are the highest mountains in the whole of North Africa. The Anti-Atlas are a separate, older range and were formed in the Paleozoic era 300 million years ago. The High Atlas are a more recent range, are greener, higher and still snow-capped. Our route would take us south across the High Atlas and then further south across the Anti-Atlas before heading back to the souks of Marrakesh. As well as being a cycling adventure, Morocco is also a feast for the eyes. From the mosques and palaces of Marrakesh to the tiling and artwork, our first port of call south out of Marrakesh was La Flouka guest house at Lala Takarkust, a beautiful guest house by a reservoir. Morocco has some amazing places to stay. But our luxury didn't last long. It took us 3 days to reach our highest point, the Tizian Test Pass. The Berber people of the Atlas keep a lot of sheep and goats. And their mud houses are very well camouflaged with the landscape. Some of the local girls seemed happy to be caught on camera at a roadside cafe. Most of the kids loved running down to the road to greet us. Lunch stops can be identified by tagine pots. These pots trap steam, enabling cooking with minimal water. And the Moroccans love their mint tea. Just before the Tizian Test passed, we found another relaxing guest house called Dar El Mouahidines. And around here we very briefly saw a wild Atlas chameleon. Morocco is also famous for its fossils. And these marine fossils show that this part of North Africa was once under the sea. The Tizian Test Pass lies at 2,000 meters above sea level. Although the occasional slow truck can still make it up here. At the pass is a great cafe, which even has rooms where you can stay. Over the other side is a long descent. And at the bottom, the flat road to Taradont. And it was here that we first saw argan trees. Argan trees are scrubby trees that seem to grow all over the south of Morocco and produce a nut that gives argan oil. Argan oil is a sweet, nutritious oil that the Moroccans have used for centuries in their cooking, which has also now found an international market for hair and beauty products. But just before Taradont, Sean had lined up a little luxury at the Riyadh Hida at Oulad Berhil, which is a converted 19th century Kasbah with a swimming pool. And peacocks. It was a relatively easy 2-hour 40k cycle on to Taradont. Taradont has fantastic old city walls, and I wanted to visit its leather tannery. We stocked up on cycling fuel. And then visited the tannery. As soon as you go in, you are handed a sprig of mint to keep sniffing. Outside are skins drying in the sun, which they get from the abattoir across the road. The skins are cleaned of fat and lime is used to remove the fur or hair.
In there into lime, right over there. You know there is a lime in there.
A lot of pigeon droppings are then critical to the process, causing the whole tannery an unbelievable stench.
You know, we have to clean them again with water and soap. Get dried like that, then we sprinkle them with water, then we scrape them twice. We are going to see after.
50 men normally work in this tannery, although we happen to go on a holiday. It takes 6 weeks for the skins to start looking like something approaching leather before some back-breaking work to soften them from various workers. This man asked me if I had a cigarette, but even though I didn't, he wasn't bothered about my camera. I didn't fancy his job, but leather does provide some employment. A myriad of final products are produced, which look quite different from the original skins. I walked away still sniffing my mint. Visiting Taradont is like going back in time. Men sell single cigarettes out of a packet of cigarettes. And in the main square you can see snake charmers telling stories. I am not sure if they were speaking Arabic or Berber, as they were surrounded by a deep ring of local men. They were not easy for me to film. The next day we headed further south across the Anti-Atlas. The Anti-Atlas were dry, less populated and hard cycling. A few hardy types live here. We were prepared with bread and water, but as luck would have it, we found a cafe for lunch with tagine and Coca-Cola. Where are we now?
We're there. Well, you know, halfway.
And now we're just waiting for our tagine, which is going to come out in this little lovely makeshift cafe we just came across, signified by a tagine pot. When our food came out, it was absolutely delicious. I tried to max out on the lunch stop with some mint tea. Soon we were back on the barren, windswept road. After a 10-hour cycle to Igherm, the only place we found to stay had a cold water tap and beds with bed bugs where the sheets hadn't been changed. We did find a trucker's cafe which did us a traditional Berber omelette for dinner. The next day after Igherm took me another 10 hours in the saddle. The last hour that day was the most amazing descent into Tafraout, where there's a lovely choice of hotels. And this part of Morocco has cave paintings which depict elephant and antelope from a time when Morocco was fertile grassland and savanna. It's a short walk to an amazing spectacle called the Painted Rocks. Now we're off trying to find the Painted Rocks near Tafraout, but we haven't taken a guide and we can't see any other tourists. Sean, what way do you think it is? That's not very specific, is it? We still haven't found the Painted Rocks yet. They're about 2 kilometres somewhere down this road, but we're not sure exactly where. They're not these here on the right. Here we are, we found them, against all the odds. They're just in the distance, you might just be able to see them over there. We'll get a close-up now in a second. In 1984, a Belgian artist and team of Moroccan firemen hosed 18 tons of paint over some of these rocks. After the painted rocks, we visited a women's cooperative argan oil workshop on the way back into Tafraout. I guess it was no surprise that this process involved a lot of laborious cracking and grinding. But the resulting oil is worth it. The cooperative sold a range of delicious products, of which I bought a jar of amalou, which is argan oil mixed with honey and sesame, which was lucky as it ended up as an emergency cyclist's lunch on the way out of Tafraout the next day.
Bonjour, ça va?
It took us a couple of hours to get to the top of the ridge, where we stopped for a break to admire the view back down into the valley. After 90 kilometers to the next town of Eit Baha, Sean managed to put our bikes in a taxi to take us the small rest of the way to the coast and up to Paradise Valley. Paradise Valley is a little secret north of Agadir and was the greenest part of Morocco that we went to. The local Moroccans grow lots of fruit and vegetables here. Although even Paradise Valley is getting drier than it used to be, as you can see by the smooth rock left by what has been a waterfall here. The village of Imouzer in Paradise Valley had an interesting market with baskets made out of recycled tyres. Near the coast I saw one used as a flower pot. The 75k from Paradise Valley to the coast is much harder than it looks on the map, with many up and down hills. We finished the trip by cycling up to Essaouira on the coast, before putting our bikes on a bus to avoid the busy road from the coast to Marrakesh. Essaouira was a delightful, picturesque and relaxing place to finish. It was originally a fishing port and still catches lots of fish. But it is also a working, residential and market town. And has now become a tourist mecca too. It has a great beach with many lovely hotels and guest houses and a great cafe culture. The shops sell all manner of artistic creations and spices and clothes and carpets. And you can also see the influences of trade with West Africa. Back in Marrakesh, the Jamaa El Fana square was as eye-popping as ever. Jamaa El Fana translates as Assembly of the Dead, as it is thought that long ago criminals were executed in this square. I wanted to catch up again with the snake charmers. But this time I also saw a man with a vulture. The vulture bit a tourist's hand and had to have its beak taped up. I found the snake charmers, although these were tourist snake charmers rather than storytellers, and they had to be given money. One of them roped Sean into something I think he would rather not have had to do.
Photo for me.